What's going on, guys, and welcome back. So tomorrow, Saturday, we kick off Set Championship Ursula's return, and we have an oldie but a goodie today. I think this deck is positioned to do very, very well, and we're going to talk about why. Ruby Amethyst. Why is Ruby Amethyst such a good choice for your Set Championships? Well, it has decent matchups across the board. It doesn't really have any auto loss matchups. It's super consistent, and it is very strong. So consistency, strength, and realistically not much for bad matchups means you're probably going to be in a decent spot. The deck can be built and tutored to handle pretty much any meta, and it just does really well. You might not have overwhelmingly great matchups, but again, what's worse, having great matchups and bad matchups, or just having solid matchups across the board where you're in every single one of them? The deck is a little more, I guess, a little less budget friendly than it used to be. We see it creeping up in that 200, mid 200 range as far as cost goes. We're at 15 uninkables. Our cost curves, you'll see we are on the 4 1-drop train. It's kind of a common trend this format, and it's something I've been a little leery on, but testing it, I was like, okay, let's try just the 8 at first, and then we ended up cutting down to 6 1-drops, and as it went on, it just felt like even versus the aggro decks, it works. And one thing you can see there, we're playing Magic Broom as our 1-drop. I went with Broom over Chernabog for two main reasons. Number one, when you're in the late game and you really need that draw, you can play your Broom, play another character, and then get your draw off your Broom immediately that same turn. Whereas something like Chernabog's Followers, you cannot do that. You must wait till your next turn, hope you don't get hit by a board wipe or anything of your opponent, and then you can get that draw after questing. Whereas Broom, you can just do it on that same turn, assuming you play a second character. In addition to that, its 2 willpower is very helpful in aggro matchups, because if they get those 1/1 questers down and you have your Chernabog, sure, you take them out, but your Chernabog also loses out, whereas your Magic Broom can take out one of those 1/1 2 questers and survive it, and then you can either take out a second one or you can get your draw off of your Magic Broom still. So for this reason, I do like the Broom a little bit more than Chernabog's Followers, or for those two reasons. Then into our 2-drop spot, we have 4 Cusco, 3 Snake, and 4 Flynn Riders. Flynn's pretty standard. You know, it's your aggro approach. It's your win condition versus Sisu. Versus Green Steel, you really want to emphasize the Amethyst draw cards early. If you can set up your Flynn with like a big Sisu of your own, big being the 3 who gets the strength off of your opponent's hand. If you can set up Flynn with Sisu, get to your Fox, get to your Maui, get to these characters, and start gaining 3+ lore every turn, that'll help you a lot in the Bucky matchup. Otherwise, too, just really focus on your Amethyst draws early to keep your hand size up, so that way when you get to those like 6-7 ink, you can use your power cards to just stabilize the board presence. Cusco helps that because when he's banished, you get to draw a card. We're going to play him at 4, similar to Magic Broom. He also has that 1/2 stat line, so you can use him effectively to help deal with your opponent's aggro boards, and save those brawls and things in your hand for a little bit better cards. Versus Sisu, again, if you can get Flynn down on 2 and just start getting those big characters, you'll be in a really good spot versus the Sisu matchup. Versus the Mirror matchup, Flynn can be really good, but Flynn's weird in the Mirror matchup because a lot of the cards you're playing are the same. So it's who gets the bigger Sisu, who gets to Fox or Maui first, things like that. But if you can get that Flynn out, even like get 3 lore off of him, and then just go ahead and use him any way that you need to. You don't necessarily have to just try to keep getting that 3, because just the way the Mirror plays out, it can be a little awkward. Otherwise, the Mirror, you're just trying to manage your resources better while poking away faster. That's kind of the nature of the beast. Don't overcommit to things because, you know, Be Prepared is such a impactful card. If you're overcommitted to it and you get hit by it and they have the better follow-up in their hand, you're in trouble. So just be mindful of your surrounding, I guess, in the mirror matchup. Additionally, what's the other big matchup is Sapphire Steel. I think you can handle that deck pretty well too. Flynn, again, putting in a lot of work versus pretty much any Sapphire decks. And then just that Amethyst draw to keep your resources up, especially if they don't play the wheel. If they're not playing the whole new world, I think that you're even more favored in that matchup to do really well. Like I said, I think this deck can take down all three of the best decks other than it in the top four. Yeah, I think it's one of the 2 or 3 decks that I'm strongly considering playing. Between my multiple set championships, I probably will end up taking it to at least one of them. I just think it's really consistent and strong in what it does, and it just plays really well across the board. So why 2 Snake? I guess that's the only other thing. Or not 2, 3. 3 Snake, we're low in the 1-drop, so you're not really using it on turn 2 to bounce your 1-drops because you don't want to do that with Magic Broom anyway. You want to get your draw usually, unless you're like in an aggro where you hit one of those multi-questers, take a damage, then you can play a Snake, bounce the Broom, play the Broom on turn 3 then if you want, just to get rid of that 1 damage effectively. It's more of a turn 6 card, turn 5 card, where you're pairing it up with like goats and rabbits to bounce them to get extra advantage on that lore in the draw, or even bouncing a fox to clear damage off of it and put that rush character back in your hand, things like that. So by the time you get to like turn 5 or 6, you have so much more draws that I felt like 3 Snake was plenty. It's one of those cards where, again, it's a 2 cost, but you're not really playing it on 2. You'd rather play it in that like 6+ range, and top decking it with no board can hurt. I've really liked it at 3 and felt like it was more than content to keep it there. Our 3s, you got the Foxes and the Sisus. Sisu's just really, really strong. A lot of times she's going to be able to punish your opponent if they're drawing a lot. You're going to be able to get her out with a lot of strength. The 4 willpower is very good, and questing for 2, again, very, very strong. Your goats and rabbits, pretty self-explanatory. There's not a whole lot to say about it, why you're playing 4 of each of those. 4 Mauis, because Maui is just Maui. He's insane. He's Rush. He's Inkable. He's 6'5". He's your big wipe to pretty much anything. He can almost take out a castle on his own, too. So, very strong there. One thing I did want to play and took it out eventually was 2 Crabs. I was on 2 Crab, 2 Cusco at first, and just as it went on, I felt like the Cusco is just more impactful overall. Taking out a castle in 1 swing with a Fox when you bounce your Crab is very, very good value, but it didn't come up as often as that draw, as that body, as pairing with another card that we'll see in a bit did. So I went with the extra Cuscos instead. Then we do have the 2 Lady Tremaine and 3 Medusas. I like Tremaine as a follow-up to be prepared a little bit more than Medusa. Medusa still is crazy strong though versus like the Steel matchup versus Robin Hood versus Tragic Hero, versus a lot of those types of characters, even into Sapphire versus the Hiram. You can hit the Diablo obviously on 6. Getting to these 6+ cost cards though versus Bucky, I didn't want to play too many. I felt like 5 was the number I wanted for those, and at first I was like, well, we can go 1 Tremaine, 4 Medusas, and it just, as testing went on, I felt like Tremaine was a little undervalued initially and that I should put more focus on it, so we went 2 to 3, and I really, really liked it. How do we deal with those Diablos with the Bucky matchup? Well, Bucky has Ward, but Diablo doesn't. Diablo's the biggest issue here because it's how they maintain their resources. It's how they get so much advantage, right? Ursula, Deceiver of All, is starting to see a little less play, but it still sees a lot of play. And Brawl answers both of those cards really, really well. You don't necessarily always have to use Brawl immediately on a Diablo. Sometimes if they have that 1 turn with it, it's not the end of the world. But you do need to judge your hand. Like if you're coming back with Rabbit on 4, it's not just 1. Then either you push Brawl back or you push Rabbit back. So you might as well play the Brawl on 3. to get rid of that Diablo before they can draw anything. Because if you're not coming back with a rabbit, like if you have a goat line or something as what you have, or if you have like broom plus brawl, you can come back with that on 4 and let them just get the 1 draw off Diablo, and it's not the end of the world just to hit your curve a little better. But sometimes you, like, if your curve is hitting a draw card on 4, you really want to just brawl and get rid of that Diablo. Or if you're coming down with a castle on 4, possibly, you can hold that brawl at the moment and use it the following turn. It's a card that you don't want to just throw down necessarily because you can. It's a card you want to be smart about and use. However, we can be a little more greedy with it because we are playing 2 Teeth and Ambitions. This card works really, really well with Cusco to be able to get rid of the Cusco, get rid of their Diablo, and then you get a draw off of your Cusco. So essentially, it'd be like turn 3, you quest with Cusco, get 1 lore, and then you can play your Teeth and Ambition. Or if you have a different 3 to come down with, you could just use Cusco to sing the Teeth and Ambition, take out the Diablo, and then take himself out, and then you get the draw, so he'll replace himself, and you just get a little more advantage over your opponent. I've seen a lot of people say the Bucky matchup's like a 60-40 in favor of Bucky here, so I thought, why keep doing what admittedly players like Luca were very, very successful with, but he also avoided Bucky for almost the entirety of the tournament. Doesn't mean the deck can't beat it. Again, 60-40 means 4 out of 10 times you will beat it, which is almost half. That's not too bad. But why not try to tip that to a 45-55, to a 50-50? I mean, heck, a 48-52, something like that. So we wanted a few more answers to hit for that Diablo. So we added the 2 Teeth and Ambition, which is another reason why we went with Cusco in that 2-drop spot. So I feel like the deck is a little stronger into the Bucky matchup than the no Teeth and Ambition version, and it also is a little stronger into the aggro matchup than the no Bucky version, playing the Broom, the Cusco, and the Teeth in addition to your other cards. For our other songs, we are playing 4 Friends on the other side, 3 Be Kings, and then also 3 Be Prepareds. Again, I know 4 Be Prepared is just insane. It's really, really strong. It's really, really good. Between Uninkables, I didn't want to go to 16. To me, that's a lot in this deck. I'd rather stay between like 12 to 15, and we're still right at the top of that. 16 is the absolute max Uninkables I would play in this deck. So we could have played a 4th Be Prepared. We could have cut 1 Be King for a 4th Be Prepared. But you have so much draw cards, and I just felt like Be Prepared was okay at 3. You still see it pretty often by that turn of the game, and you don't necessarily want to see it too much earlier because of things like Ursula, Bare Necessities, just Bucky discard in general. It felt like a card that gets discarded a lot if you see it early. So we kind of just cut it down to hopefully see more usable cards in that early game instead of seeing cards that, well, I guess that's what I'm going to discard for sure. 3 Be Kings is really strong as well. Essentially Tremaine without the board presence, but a couple turns sooner. Then lastly, we have our Queen's Castle. Again, there's a reason this card's going up so much in price. Last format, it was still a very strong card, but it was like a $4 card. It's up to 13. This card's just insane. It's really, really strong. If you're playing Amethyst, you're probably playing 3 or 4 of this card, period. There's not really any versions of Amethyst that shouldn't play this card. Even Hyper Aggro should play this card. This card is just really, really strong to come down with, especially if you're playing it on like 5 or 6 where you move characters there immediately and force your opponent to take it out in one swing, or you're going to be drawing 2 or 3 cards, and it just becomes very, very good. Thank you to everybody for all the support. Let me know what you think about this deck. What deck are you taking to your set championships? What decks do you expect to play in your set championships? We'll have more deck reviews like this and more breakdowns on how to play against certain decks, like our Bucky one. If you want to check that out, it is up on the channel. We will have one for this video, for this deck, for Sisu, for the Sapphire Steel, and some other decks as we move on. And as always, link to a spreadsheet down below. We will create a tab tracking how each deck does in set championships as well, just to show that. Thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.